So in this clip, Nabeel Qureshi is talking about basically his conversion story, how when he understood the gospel, everything changed. So let's watch the clip and then I'll share a little bit about my story as well.
And I know this sounds cliche, but it's true. Everything looked different. Everything looked different. It was the same apartment, the same tree, the same street, but it all looked different. And the one thing that looked the most different was when I saw someone walking across the street. Now, I'd seen that millions of times before, but for the first time, I realized that's not just someone, that's someone that God was willing to die for. Think about this. As a Muslim, my whole life, I believed that God sat on his throne and he would never enter into this world, and he ruled us from above, and he gave us a bunch of things to do, and he would judge us at the end of time. But this story is that God was willing to enter into this world, in a filthy world. And he was willing to live as a carpenter, blue-collar laborer, and he's willing to live with people who would ultimately betray him. And then he's willing to go to a cross and suffer and die for the sake of sinners. Our God, who created the universe, all the stars in the sky, he just thought them into existence. That God is willing to die. And as he tells us that he loves us so much, he's willing to die for us, this is what he says: "As I have loved you, so love one another." And if I'm willing to watch someone walk across the street and let them go about their day, and I'm not willing to love them so much that I'm ready to die for them, then how am I following Jesus? What does it mean to follow Jesus if he's willing to die for people who sinned against him and I'm not? How am I a follower of Jesus? And in that moment, I realized what the gospel was. The gospel is not something that you just hear and believe. If it doesn't change your life, it hasn't hit you yet.
So this reminds me of the first mission trip that I took to La Paz, Mexico. I had rededicated my life and I was in Bible college. And in the summer we went to a mission trip. A lot of what we did was hanging out with the kids and doing Bible studies. And as we were leaving, I remember on our way to the airport, something started to change in my heart. And I was looking at all the cars that passed by us. And the men, the women, the kids, and dogs, and I don't know if dogs go to heaven, but I started to pray for everyone that I saw. And it was hundreds of people. We were just passing by on the freeway. Sometimes we would stop, and I just tried to pray and intercede for everyone that we saw, because I understood that if we don't go, if we don't share the gospel with them, they're not going to be saved. If someone is not sharing it with them, if they're not hearing about Jesus, there's a big possibility that they're not going to go to heaven. Hopefully, by me praying, someone would run into them, or they would hear a scripture or a sermon or some kind of evangelistic track that would help them to know and learn about God. And as far as my own conversion story, when I was 20, I was laying on my bed and I was contemplating suicide. I was in a very rough place. Everything that I loved was falling apart. And I did a simple prayer. I didn't know what I was saying, but I said, "God, I chase money. I chase girls, I chase rap, and now I'm going to chase you and see what happens. I have nothing else to live for." And it was almost in an instant when I said that, all the weight left my shoulders. The weight of the world was gone, and all the things that I had been trying to give up, I didn't have a desire for anymore. I was going to youth group for about 2 years, and I had one foot in the church and one foot in the world, because I was still a rapper and I was still smoking and drinking, and I was trying to quit those things. But then my friends would come over and they would say, "Man, you want to smoke?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm good." And then after them doing it so much, I would give in. So my desire in my heart was trying to say no, but I continued to give in to peer pressure. And it was almost in an instance, those things I didn't want anymore. That desire was just completely gone. So it wasn't even a struggle anymore. Cussing wasn't a problem anymore. Fornication wasn't a problem anymore. The desire to drink or even people please wasn't a desire anymore. All of it was gone in an instant. I didn't care what people thought about me. My whole life I spent trying to please people and make them like me, to the point where I was ready to give it all up. And I actually did. I didn't like the person that I was and how I treated women, or how I treated my friends, or how I treated my family, or how I even treated my enemies, and to the point that I would ask them for forgiveness of how I treated them and how I acted. Because when you are really saved, when you have that moment, everything is different. My heart was different. My mind was different. My whole perspective changed. And so I guess the question that I want to ask is, have you ever had that moment where everything change, where you see people in a different light. You see yourself in a different light, and you understand at that moment that you need Jesus. You are not going to heaven without him. Your good deeds, your works, just because you're not as bad as certain people, that's not how God does things. He doesn't judge you according to other people. He judges you according to his word, according to his standard. And if you haven't had that experience, then send me a message or put a comment down, and I would love to have a conversation with you and talk to you about the gospel. God is too good for us not to share him with the world. There are people's lives that are in stake. And so maybe you want to learn how to share the gospel or tell people about Jesus in a better way. Send me a message. That's why I have the Paradox Kingdom, is because I want to equip Christians to help other people learn about Jesus. And I want to reach the lost who don't know about him but heard all these false narratives about who God is. He's a monster, or he's a dictator, or he hates you, or he wants to send you to hell, and all these different things that they've heard from all these popular atheists. And I want to show the world the true love of the Father. As always, if you have any questions, please leave it in the comments. And until next time, peace.